넷플릭스에 공개된 승리호의 인기가 계속되는 가운데 해외 영화 전문 리뷰어들의 영상들도 계속해서 올라오고 있습니다. 해외 리뷰어들은 과연 승리호를 어떻게 보았는지 그들의 리뷰 영상을 소개해 드리겠습니다. 구독과 좋아요는 영상 제작 번역에 큰 도움이 됩니다.
When I saw the trailer for this film, I thought this was going to be a cheesy film. I expected to not enjoy it at all, and I wondered if I was going to have to put on my non-thinking brain and just enjoy it for a bad sci-fi. And there is elements of that to it. However, I enjoyed it much more than I thought I was going to. I was going to compare it to something like Space Truckers, a really cheesy, bad, old 90s film.
Space Truckers.
And it's not like that, thankfully. There are elements similar to that. It would be more interesting to compare it to The Wandering Earth, another massive blockbuster sci-fi film. I've seen some really negative reviews already from this, mostly from, I guess, what you'd call non-professional critic reviews, but some of them are saying that this film has no imagination, which is just bizarre, because the one thing this film has is imagination. The story is far more complex than you initially think at the beginning. You think it's going one way, and then the story devolves and does that. When they do that with the characters' backstories, which they give ample time to, which I really appreciated, and so once you get to know your backstories of your characters, you're that much more invested in this crew of the Victory. It does hark to similar series or films that we've seen, The Expanse,
Say no more.
Firefly. Okay. It kind of has that kind of crew, that quirky crew that we get. We have an android, we have a guy that's from the mafia, we have a captain who has a really dark history, a guy that's looking for his daughter. So they each have their backstories. They are thrust together on this, basically a rebel crew. And that sort of story always works well. And then you thrust that into a sort of cyberpunk, futuristic look. It's again the post-apocalyptic future of where Earth is on its last dregs, and we're trying to deal with space. We're trying to find another home. We have the separation of classes once again. Who is the better human can live out in the clean air, and who's the bad human can live in the smog. It's that sort of Blade Runner-esque storyline. What I really like about it is how realized the worlds feel. So when you're in the alleyways, everything is full. It all feels messy. It feels very claustrophobic, even though there's lots of space, because there's junk, debris in space completely everywhere. Just where you're walking is completely filled with random things that you can go and have a look at that would make sense to be there. I think the art department had a lot of fun on this film. It also claims to be, I think, the biggest or one of the most expensive Korean sci-fi films ever. Sci-fi, have to specify that, and you can see that they had a lot of fun ticking the boxes of things that you'd expect to see in a sci-fi big blockbuster film. That's not to say some of the dialogue isn't terrible, because there are moments when some of the main characters, especially the generic bad guy, when he's delivering some of these lines, especially towards the end, I did cringe a bit, because I was like, you didn't have to say any of those lines. We get what you're going through. It just feels like they're covering all their boxes inside, just in case the audience doesn't know what he's thinking or what we want them to feel. We don't know how to make them feel what the bad guy is feeling right now. We're going to get him to say it. And that's exposition dumping, which is not a great tool when you're using your craft in cinematography. However, it looks fantastic. There is a huge spectacle adventure that goes on here. There are lovely robotic creature designs, spaceship designs. I love the way we get space battles. That is a lot of fun. It has all that action adventure that you expect, hand-to-hand combat, space battles with spaceships against missiles, android fights, emotional beats that eventually come ground you into liking the characters more. Again, I've already mentioned the grounding of the realization of the world feeling very real. When I say world, I mean wherever they're at, the world as in the written world that the creators were trying to get to the viewer to really understand what you're meant to be feeling at that moment, which I got. There is some terrible cheesy dialogue, and there is definitely moments where you're like, you wouldn't survive that, you should be dead. Put all that aside when you're watching a sci-fi escapism film, blockbuster stuff, and grab your popcorn and get a drink and just enjoy it for what it is. That's I'm not, and I feel like that's saying that it's worse than it is, because it actually is a really fun film. Think of your really fun, not too serious sci-fi action adventure films, and then have a bit of culture in there, and then add a bit of things that you've seen in these action sci-fi films before, and that is the sort of ride you're on. It is over 2 hours long as well. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I do feel like it gets a little bit long in the tooth in the middle somewhere, where they're really they've gone and given us the padding of the backstories, but then they kind of giving us more padding of certain characters that didn't really play a massive part in the story. For example, we get a little bit of backstory with the bad guy, but unless you're actually going to develop the bad guy, the generic bad guy, properly, then there's no real point to it. I would have liked some much deeper philosophy as to why the bad guy is doing what he is. He's just that generic bad guy. I like this. I feel like you guys are scum and I'm the better one. He's consumed with power. You know, it's that sort of character bad guy. I don't think he played it badly. I just think that what he had, that is what they were trying to go for, say that they weren't really concentrating on what the bad guy was going to do. Of course, we have that bad guy boss at towards the end, bad guy boss fight. But mostly the story is the character journeys that these characters go on and the character developments that they go on with this MacGuffin, which is the girl that is on the ship, and you see them all develop. And so by the time you get to the end, you are invested in the characters. So when stuff does happen to the characters, you're like, no! That is what an epic space battle adventure should do, and I think it ticks all those boxes. So if you take this too seriously as a critic, then you're going to miss the point of this film. It's not like an Oscar-worthy film for massive dialogue scenes or those moments that people are going to remember. But it is a film that I would love to talk about with my friends and say, hey, how about that android? He was fantastic. My favorite character, by the way. I didn't see that moment coming. Or, yeah, that's really fun. In a couple of months, I probably won't mind switching this on again just to sit back and enjoy a fun fantasy action film. So I'm going to give it a A-, not because it is like that quality compared to some other films which are given A- like Inception, you know, that sort of level, just because the level of enjoyment I had while watching it, it took me by surprise. So don't hate me. I thought it was pretty good and I enjoyed it.
So the first thing I have to say, this movie rocked. It did. I love
It really
this
did.
movie. It rocked my socks off. And I was telling Kai earlier today, I was reading up on the movie, and their budget was like less than $22 million to do this entire movie. I thought it was, what did you think of the effects when you started
Amazing.
watching it?
So the visual effects, when Tina told me to watch this, and I was going to watch it anyways, but I didn't realize it came out yesterday. And she was like, no, you got to watch it. It's so kick-ass. And I loved it. So I did. The visual effects, though, amazing. What in America would normally probably come up to like 250 million, 220 million.
Mhm.
They did it in 22 million. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
The
Very
story was
impressive.
awesome. I loved the comedy. And
Everything you
most of the
wanted.
sarcasm came from Buddy. Buddy's the robot,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Buddy is a male robot. Well, I don't know. Buddy's a male robot, but at the end that changes. So,
Yep.
so I thought that was totally interesting, and everyone loved him, her, them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. Like, but you like loved it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know really what to expect. I thought it was just going to be just kind of like a lighthearted something space thing, but I wasn't expecting it to be like I really like the Wachowski brothers. Not brothers, they're not brothers anymore, are they? When the Wachowskis when
Yes.
they did Jupiter Rising, that's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. I mean, plot wise, it's kind of wishy-washy, but the visuals on it, and I just love Channing being Chinese. That Frenchman Pierre, they had some Africans, they had some
Yeah, they had
Polish,
everyone.
they had
Spanish.
everybody. Spanish, yeah.
They had Spanish. They had everyone. And who was the main guy? He was kind of a hottie.
the main guy who played
the dad, not the Uncle Tiger,
oh yeah,
the other one, the one who lost
that's
his daughter Soon-Yi.
yes.
What
Yes,
was
that's
his name, and who is that
his,
actor?
his name is Song Joong-ki, and he's one of the hottest actors in Korea. There was a TV series called Moon Replaces the Sun, or something. Sun Chases the Moon. Something came out in 2016. A TV series,
And
Korean
he was on that.
series. He was on that, and it was excellent,
Ooh,
excellent. So it takes place. He's in the army, and then he meets a girl who's also like a nurse or a captain, and it's
wow.
it's
He was hot in
yes.
this. He
Mhm.
was hot. He was.
As that guy, he would have been featured in this cast list
Uh-huh.
as somebody we would have known, but they only featured the Korean actors who it's a purely Korean film, so I don't know if they would have
Oh wow,
cast it.
it
Yeah.
is Richard Armitage.
Was it
Yeah.
Richard Armitage? Oh
Yep.
wow. Okay.
And he played, yes. Okay, because I heard the voice and I was like, wait, why does that voice sound so familiar? Yeah, he played, oh my God. What's the guy's name?
Dr. Doom. I don't know what his name. Thorin.
He played Thorin. Yes. But anyways, and I'm not a fan of him, but I just recognized the voice. I was like,
Mhm.
why is that guy yelling at Bilbo? And it was really the guy in the movie. So I was like, wow, he's that's Thorin, son of Thrain. I love those. I love the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, but because of Lego.
Sometimes watch these Korean films or series when they have English speaking people or people in different languages. I'm
Mhm.
not expecting much, but I was like, well, here's a guy knows what he's doing. So,
Well, and he
hey,
was good. He was very
yeah,
good
he
as a
was.
villain. He was very good. So that's why I was like, okay,
Mhm,
at least he wasn't cheesy. At least it wasn't,
mhm.
hey, I know that voice. So yeah, but and the little girl,
Mhm.
she was so adorable, so adorable. What did you think of the captain though?
Oh,
Like, what did you think of her? Like, what was your? I
she
didn't like her,
well,
but I
see
wasn't against her as well.
the story,
Mhm.
even the bad guy, you got to see his philosophy of thought. He thought he was doing everything good for humanity, and
Mhm.
then near the end, you got to see his last thoughts before his end. So, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it a whole lot, and it was fun. It had lots of space action, lots of comedy. It had so if you like the science fiction, you like space opera, you like comedy, you like seeing hot Asian men, and girls kick ass, and people being really cute, it's got it all. It's a great way to spend an afternoon watching a
Yes,
Korean movie.
it's a
So,
good movie.
mhm.
It's a good movie. I think you guys will all like it. So definitely go watch it. There's heart, there's comedy, like Tina said, everything. There's everything. You grab lunch,
Mhm.
grab lunch, watch
Or
it,
dinner, watch it.
or
Mhm.
dinner, take the time to sit down and watch it. It's actually a really good movie. We highly recommend it. So
Space Sweepers on Netflix right now. So
ooh,
go watch
ooh.
it. We give it a triple
Yes.
thumbs up. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like lots of fingers.
구독과 좋아요는 영상 제작 번역에 큰 도움이 됩니다.